What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, since last week when Cyberpunk 2077 released, CD Projekt Red has been getting hit with a ton of backlash over the bugs, the glitches, but really the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One versions seems to be what put everyone over the top and the way they perform. And it looks like now CD Projekt Red has started to respond to all of this to employees there and developers in different emails, seemingly outlining even how their bonuses are now going to work, which, by the way, before they were tied to review scores. We'll go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to talk about a big leak online for a game coming out in 2021, that being Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village. And I'm not even kidding. You might want to look out for spoilers already, even though this game isn't out for months still. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure the like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with a couple of Amiibos that had already been announced, but we were waiting for release dates. And I'm not a big Amiibo collector. I fell out of it very, very quickly after like the first two waves, I think. I got like Villager and Yoshi and like a few others, and then I was kind of out after that. But for everyone out there who is still collecting, check this tweet out right here. It says Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Amiibo for DLC fighters Banjo and Kazooie, Terry, and Byleth will be available starting March 26th. And like I said, I'm not really into collecting Amiibos, but the Banjo and Kazooie one, that one might pull me back in at least a little bit just to grab that. Look, if I'm at like Best Buy or something and I kind of walk by and, oh, there's Banjo, you know, I might just grab that one. But this should also remind you that Sephiroth is going to be an Amiibo, we assume pretty soon, or at least in the future, since, I mean, come on, that would sell like crazy, right? Sephiroth, an Amiibo you can pick up, that honestly might be one I would look into, although I'd still have to get Cloud, I guess, too. But either way, let me know if you're getting any of these. Definitely Banjo-Kazooie, not so much, I think, Terry or Byleth, but let me know. Also, while the talk has been about bugs and glitches for Cyberpunk 2077, there's still a lot to explore in this game, and people are starting to find some rather interesting things in this game, like, how about Hideo Kojima? Yeah, he's in this game, which is odd. I don't know, that was surprising to me, but like you can even see this tweet here from Kojima Productions. Huge congratulations, CD Projekt Red, on the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. We can't wait to play it and see what's in store. Some of you might even recognize a familiar face. Yes, that's Hideo Kojima in the game. In fact, some people have already found him in the game, and it seems that he just kind of is in random spots almost. Like people have found him in clubs, just kind of hanging out, having a drink, and you kind of walk up to him and he's kind of rude even to you, but it's still pretty interesting to see him there. Some of you even said that like the baby from Death Stranding is a part of Cyberpunk 2077. I like to hear that like there are these things that are at least hidden in the world to find. It really makes you want to explore and makes you wonder what else could be in there. Cool little Easter eggs, because there are a lot of details here, a lot of points of attention to detail all over the place. So makes you wonder what you could find around any corner. Oh, and if you remember before, we talked about Codemasters becoming part of Take-Two. Do you remember like Take-Two was coming in, they're making like a cash and stock offer and everything seems set. Codemasters appeared to accept it and it looked like they were going to be heading over to the Take-Two side, and that got me kind of excited because like, can they get the Midnight Club? That'd be kind of cool, but it looks like it's not going to be so easy for Take-Two. Check this out. And this is going to be news that should pop up more and more today as we go along, because they will talk about this with investors. There will be probably a press release put out, but it looks like EA is going to be starting a bit of a bidding war over Codemasters. Yeah, here's the headline here from Sky News. Games giant Electronic Arts gate crashes, £725 million Codemasters takeover. The $40 billion US-based games giant EA has ignited a bidding war for Britain's Codemasters, Sky News understands. Now, the thing with EA is their market cap is about twice what Take-Two is, so there's a good chance that EA will come in here if they really want Codemasters and kind of bully Take-Two a little bit, which is interesting because, I mean, these are two very large companies. Still, EA is just a even bigger company. It's like a big company, but then like a bigger company coming in. So it's interesting to think that EA, I guess, would want Codemasters. I don't know, maybe they're the developers there they like, or the IPs, very possible, but interesting stuff here. And we'll have to keep an eye on this situation because I am curious if then Take-Two comes back with a counteroffer. Like, we're going to find out very quickly who really wants Codemasters, or really whose bank account is deep enough for this, because EA could come in, which we're still trying to find out the offer. Hopefully that's today. They come out with all cash even. And then Codemasters might say, well, yeah, we're going to take the all cash offer. I don't want half cash, half stock. So something to keep an eye on today, specifically in the news. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with Cyberpunk 2077, the backlash they faced, and some things that have happened actually since the game came out, and even during the run-up to the game itself and its release. Specifically, the stock price for CD Projekt Red has dropped quite significantly, actually. We can see this from GameIndustries.biz. They say CD Projekt Red stock falls 29% in run-up to Cyberpunk 2077 launch, with share price dropped as much as 7.8% after long-awaited game finally launched yesterday. Some of this was leading up to release, and that had to do with some of the pre-release reviews that we saw where it was on PC. We could only have B-roll that CD Projekt Red provided, which was like, okay, that's a little odd. Then we hear about all the bugs, the glitches, and there were some, I'm sure, investors who were like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not going to stick around to see how this goes. Now, the big thing here, though, CD Projekt Red has reportedly already recouped all of their development costs. Just already, from pre-orders and everything. So, like, that entire time it was in development, we're good. They broke even, right? I mean, that is certainly the faith that fans and gamers had in CD Projekt Red with this whole thing. But they have at least been releasing several patches. The latest one, 1.04, you can just see a massive list of stuff that they are fixing. A lot of things people have noticed and at least talked about online, because a lot of these, as you can see, they're just different points in Quest that people are getting stuck and then sharing it online. So it seems like they are right now just sprinting, trying to get as much stuff as they can fixed as possible that would be considered game breaking and halting your progress in the game. Now, some of this also, according to these patch notes, had to do with stability and just making the game run better. And I will give them credit here. Since I downloaded that patch, I've put in several more hours into the game. I have not had one crash on the PS5 since. Before that, I had 7. So I don't know, maybe I just haven't run into something that would crash the game yet like it was before, but at least now I'm seeing better performance, more stability. It's not crashing, right? So that's like the bar we're at right now. Now we can see the CD Projekt Red did respond, executives specifically, as we can see from Jason Schreier. CD Projekt Red executives took responsibility for Cyberpunk's buggy launch in an email to staff today, saying this year's performance bonuses will no longer be tied to review scores given the circumstances. Before, the threshold was 90 plus on Metacritic. Team leads at CD Projekt Red give out bonus performance tokens to employees every month, a system that some say has implicitly encouraged developers to crunch. In the email, studio head Adam said it was his and the board's responsibility for Cyberpunk 2077's messy launch. We underestimated the lengths and complexity involved to make this a reality, and still you did everything you could to deliver an ambitious special game. Now, it seems weird to me to take bonuses and tie them to a Metacritic score. We've seen this before. It was Fallout New Vegas. I think they missed it by like a few points or something, and they didn't get the bonus. That was Obsidian, and that hurt them pretty bad. So to tie it to this arbitrary number where people still can't agree, by the way, on review scores, like a 7 out of 10 is bad apparently, like that's weird to take people's bonuses and just have it rely solely on that. I mean, you assume, okay, the game's good, you'll get your bonuses, but wouldn't it be better if the game sells well, you get your bonus, because then everyone's getting paid. I mean, let's face it, we knew Cyberpunk was gonna sell well, but interestingly enough, it seems that even PlayStation and Microsoft kind of recognize the situation right now, as there are several reports online that they're just refunding people who just want their money back for Cyberpunk 2077 after they bought it. And you know what? There are gonna be a lot of people who buy it on the Xbox One and buy it on the PS4, and it's just a broken mess for them. I mean, really, if you look at it, we just talked about the head of CD Projekt Red, Adam, just 3 weeks ago, he said that they ran surprisingly well on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Yeah, the whole thing here is the marketing, the presentation leading up to it feels very deceptive overall, with the embargoes, the B-roll provided by CD Projekt Red, and kind of, I would say, stifling the reviewers and what they were able to show. And you don't have to take my word for it that people aren't happy. You can just go check out Metacritic and their user review scores, or just scroll through Twitter and you'll see a whole compilation of bugs and glitches and games crashing. It's not great right now, but at least it looks like CD Projekt Red is moving along, trying to fix a lot of the issues right now, and we'll see how long it takes them to do so. And it's good to see that they are not tying developers' bonuses to a Metacritic score that is not going to be good. The Xbox One and the PS4 version surely are going to be below a 90. In fact, right now there are 2 reviews for the Xbox One version, and it looks like we have a 35 and like a 68. So it has a chance to possibly post a review score similar to Anthem, which is not going to get bonuses under that stipulation. So fortunately, everyone there who worked on this game for like 8 years or so or whatever is going to get their money for it, because the game itself, like I said, is good. It's just obviously there were problems with management, figuring out what they can rein in, and then put out a game that at least works well enough, I'll say, on all platforms. Next up, let's talk about Resident Evil 8 leaking out online already. No, I'm serious. It sounds weird because we've seen the game, they've presented it and all this, but we don't even know when the game's coming out. Usually you get close to a game's release and we're like, all right, guys, you got to be careful for like a week because the game leaked online. This game is still in development, technically, but check this out here. This is from Game Rant. Resident Evil 8 Village leaks, story spoilers spread online. An in-development build of Resident Evil 8 appears to leak online, leading to the game's story and cutscenes being spread in certain forums. And it does appear that this can be tied back to those Capcom leaks that we talked about before, with the hacking group kind of pulling off like a terabyte of data or something and just starting to spread it online. We already knew about certain games that are coming up, like the Ghosts and Goblins reveal. That was technically in the leaks, so like we already know Monster Hunter Rise as an example. That's going to PC at the end of the year for 2021. But here we are now in 2020, and there are already Resident Evil 8 like Village or Resident Evil 8 spoilers out there. It's like this year will never end. But I can tell you this, it also appears that we know when the game is at least targeting its release, so you kind of know how long you have to be careful online then. So it looks like they're going to attempt to release this in May 2021. It's not set in stone because they haven't announced it. That was also part of the leaks, and it seemed that there was a closed beta that was also being planned on the run-up to this. There's a whole like marketing timeline that's shared in those leaks. So yeah, interesting stuff there, that you already have to be careful of Resident Evil 8 leaks. And we're like 6 months out. So good luck to everyone out there. Don't click on any forum links that say Resident Evil 8 cutscenes, because you might be like, that's not correct. How can they? Yep, they're in there. Next up, let's talk about a video streaming app that is going to the Switch. And it's very weird to me that this is still news, by the way. Whenever these big video streaming apps start to go up on the Switch, we had Hulu and YouTube just as examples, it's big news. And that's because you would have figured that Nintendo would have made a big push just to get like all of them on there at once and like been done with it, even like around launch. But they didn't, and Netflix still isn't on there. But it does look like, as you can see here from this tweet, Funimation is teasing, I would assume, their video streaming app going to the Switch. And that's pretty cool. Obviously, if you're a big fan of anime, there's a lot to watch on there. And it going to the Switch just gives it something more, right? And that's one of the reasons people want the different video streaming apps like Netflix, Disney Plus, any of these, because it's just something else to do on your Switch. It doesn't hurt the Switch for it being there. So I understand why people are asking for this constantly. Like Netflix was rumored. That's how big of a deal it is for these video streaming apps. The fact that Netflix was rumored and it was like a big deal is just, it's out there for me with this. I mean, people look at the Switch and like, oh, it looks like a tablet, so it should have these video streaming apps, but no. So Funimation, it looks like they're probably just gonna announce it randomly on Twitter. Could be today, could be sometime this week, so just keep an eye on that. And our last bit of news, we're gonna go back to the NPD results for November because we did have more information come out. One bit of information kind of confused some people, so we'll cover it here very quickly. But this was after we had talked about the Switch technically being the best in terms of hardware sold for the month of November in the US, and that's the same month that the PS5 and the Series X and S launched. The Switch, still the top seller, but not the top revenue earner. In fact, if we go over here to Daniel Ahmed from the NPD US release, PS5 had the biggest launch month for any console in the US, being the previous record holder, which was the PS4. The Switch was the top-selling console in November due to high demand and sufficient supply. The Series X and S debuted lower than the Xbox One. Matt Piscatella went into this a bit further, saying that the PS5 had sold more consoles in terms of dollar sales, so just overall revenue, which makes sense. I mean, the PS5, like the regular PS5 model, is $500, the digital is $400. Either one of those are more expensive than the Switch by either $100 or $200, or if you compare it to the Switch Lite, even more so. Yeah, so even if they're kind of close, the PS5 is going to bring in just overall gross revenue, right? More. So if you go to the Series X and the S, however, it sold less than the Xbox One when that debuted in the US back in 2013. A lot of people saw this and they said, well, that's it. The Series X and S, they're doomed. But it's sold out. So you might be wondering, well, how's that possible? It's because it's a global launch this time. They're sending it to way more places in the world than they did with the Xbox One. Remember, the Xbox One didn't even launch in Japan till like 10 months after it came out in the US. The Series X and the Series S launched in Japan the same day it launched in the US this time. So stock was spread very, very thin, and we heard from Phil Spencer that Microsoft was kind of slow out of the gate anyway, where they were waiting for AMD apparently with some sort of technology they were putting into the chip Maybe we'll find out more about that later, hard to say. So they weren't able to produce as many units as Sony. It's hard to say how well either of these systems would have sold if they just had infinite supply. It would have been fun to see just to get that number. But yes, the PS5, best console launch ever, topping the PlayStation 4 actually. So that's pretty solid there. Sony seemed to actually provide quite a few units, and it's still impossible to find. But the Switch, still the best-selling piece of hardware, which goes to show you Nintendo's rolling along this generation. They're going to pass the Wii next year, and then it's on towards the PS4. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Nintendo Switch Brit saying, Microsoft remakes Perfect Dark, leading to the possibility of a Banjo-Kazooie remake. Me, don't do this, don't give me hope. So, I will tell you now, I think there is at least a reason for Microsoft to pursue the idea of a new Banjo-Kazooie game. Not like a remake of the first or Tooie or anything like that, like a full brand new Banjo-Kazooie game. Because we've heard Phil Spencer say that the one area that they feel like they're weakest at is like the family games or like the E-rated games. Games that can basically be played and enjoyed by everyone. Like Mario. Like, everyone can buy Mario and play it. It's an E-rated game, all of this, and it's a ton of fun for the family. Whereas if you look at like Microsoft, a lot of the time you're thinking of Gears of War, Halo, those kind of games, Perfect Dark now, where it's a lot of shooting and all of this. Whereas if you have a Banjo-Kazooie game, yes, it would appeal to kind of that broader audience overall, and it would be E-rated. So I think it fits in there, but they're not getting the budget that Perfect Dark is getting with the initiative. That's a quadruple A game. Banjo-Kazooie might be a double A game. It's, I think they would put more money into it than they did with Battletoads, but like not that much more. So that's the one concern I have. How serious would they actually be about a Banjo-Kazooie revival? I'm hoping they would at least give some serious thought to it and actually try and not just kind of throw it out there like they did with Battletoads. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Well, there's Resident Evil 8 already leaking out online, like 6 months before it's supposedly supposed to come out according to those leaked documents. It's like, great, now we gotta avoid spoilers for the next 6 months. Just 2020 just keeps on giving, right? And then what about CD Projekt Red and the backlash they're facing for Cyberpunk 2077 right now? Were you someone who bought it for the base Xbox One or the base PlayStation 4, and are you disappointed? Or are you really hoping that they will be able to fix these issues and smooth everything out? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.